Morning all, let's sit. Thank you. And just take a minute to sort of put everything in reasonable shape here. I need to spread out. That's all right. Double ups. So I don't need that one. Got the achievements. That probably don't need those two. Put those there. That's the latest.
You are sweet. Everyone's very helpful.
Speech. Might need that. Okay. Put that up there. Okay. Right, well, councillors, members of the media and public and local board chairs, I see there's a number of you there, good to see you, and also staff, and through Stephen to you all. So we seek wisdom, understanding, insights into the views and circumstances of others, strength to seek what we believe in, humility to accept the combined decisions of others. Patience, good humour at all times, tolerance and courtesy while we work in the best interests of this great city. So to you all, a very, very good morning and a nice frost to you all. Right, we will move on to apologies. Apologies from the other side of the world, from Councillor Penny H and Councillor Sir John. I'll move that. Seconders. Councillor Alf, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, pass. Right, we move on to declarations of interest. No declarations. Confirmation of minutes. Right, we've got a relatively long and extensive amount of minutes. And I'll move and confirm the ordinary minutes of its meeting held on Thursday, 28th May 2015, including the confidential section as a true and correct record. I move that. Second to Councillor Bill. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Pass. Right. Councillors, I have one acknowledgement today. Sir Peter Williams QC. Sir Peter was a voice for those in need, unrelenting and fearless. Respected and at times controversial lawyer, he died in his home in Auckland on June the 9th. The 80-year-old Queen's Counsel had battled prostate cancer for a decade. He was one of New Zealand's most respected legal minds and a prison reform campaigner. QC was made a Knight Companion New Zealand Order of Merit for services to the law in the New Year's Honours. Sir Peter fought for his clients in the courtroom for more than 50 years and served on more than 100 murder trials during his career. Since being admitted to the bar in 1960, he campaigned tirelessly for prisoners' rights, advocating for decent conditions during incarceration, rehabilitation and addressing the causes of crime. Presiding over the Howard League for Penal Reform for 30 years, he resigned in 2011 to establish the Prison Reform Society. Sir Peter took on clients including some of New Zealand's most significant trials, including Arthur Allen Thomas, Terry Clark and the Bassett Road machine gun murders. Retired Court of Appeal judge and an old friend, Sir Ted Thomas, told mourners at Sir Peter's funeral, describing him as the greatest defence lawyer of our time and indeed of all time. Sir Peter is survived by his wife Henny and children Darrell, Cara and Katie. Can we please all stand in acknowledgement of that great man? Thank you all. Okay. We also have there the general reference of acknowledgements, including Matariki that started last Saturday on a cold, wet but hugely well-frequented morning on Mangakēkea, and with events right around. Should be a very, very good period of celebration. Also want to acknowledge here, and we'll be hearing from her shortly, Lynn Provost, who is the Auditor General. Lynn, I can't see you. Where are you? There was a rumour that she was here. I know she'll be here shortly. Councillors, I also want to acknowledge just recent events in terms of the port. You'll be aware that a recent decision has concluded in the favour of the applicants, Urban Auckland, this meaning that consents have been set aside. Those consents we have agreed we will not appeal in terms of Auckland Council. We've conveyed that to the parties and to the public as a consequence of discussions that we had together recently. Councillors, you will be aware that the Port Board is meeting today. And I have to say to you that I'm quietly confident that the outcomes of that meeting should be beneficial in the end towards a good progress and focused progress on the future port study rather than any further work down on the port at this time. So I'm pleased that we are moving in a better direction there now. Now, public input, we've got Penny Bright. Penny, would you like to come forward, please? Penny requested to speak on a number of issues, but she will speak to us today, in particular on her request from Auckland Transport for an extension of time regarding her Lagoima as to the amount of public subsidy for private transport providers in the Auckland bus, ferry and rail operation and management. A very interesting question to be asking. Penny, so you have 5 minutes to speak on that subject, and away you go.
Thank you. The first important point is that Auckland Transport requested an extension of time to answer what is pretty much a common sense request, and I won't be getting a reply till the 3rd of July. And what deeply concerns me yet again is why am I the one asking for the evidence regarding spending? We don't actually have public transport in Auckland anymore. We don't. We have privately owned, operated and managed passenger transport. We have 10 private bus companies, 4 private ferry companies and a French multinational that operates and manages the trains. Now, if the reason for passing this over to the private sector was because they were more efficient, then why do they need public subsidies? If they're so efficient, why can't they stand on their own 2 legs? And if they can't stand on their own 2 legs, why should the public subsidise that which we no longer own, operate or manage? This is what I have asked Auckland Transport. I have started off in my customary fashion in reminding people of the law. Again, I don't know why this is my job, but it seems to be the one. Right, the underpinning legislation is the Local Government Auckland Council Amendment Act 2010, and that set up under Section 38 the establishment of Auckland Transport. Section 39, the purpose of Auckland Transport is to contribute to an effective and efficient land transport system to support Auckland's social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being. Operating principles. The principal objective, as a council-controlled organisation, Auckland Transport must B, operate in a financially responsible manner, and for this purpose prudently manage its assets and liabilities and endeavour to ensure its long-term financial viability, and that it acts as a successful going concern. C, uses its revenue efficiently and effectively and in a manner that seeks value for money. Ensure that its revenue and expenditure are accounted for in a transparent manner. So, who are these 10 private bus companies? They are AT Airporter, Bays Coach Lines, Birkenhead Transport Limited, Howick and Eastern Buses Limited, Murphy Buses, New Zealand Bus, Party Bus, Ritchie Transport Holdings, Urban Express and the Waiheke Bus Company, all privately owned. Ferry Services, Fuller's Group, 360 Discovery Services Limited, Pine Harbour Ferry, Bel Air Ferries. And of course the train services, operated and managed by Transdev, which changed its name from Veolia, the biggest multinational transport company in the world. So, what I have asked Auckland Transport is, since Auckland Transport was established on the 1st of November 2010 on a yearly basis, please provide a detailed breakdown which shows exactly how much public subsidy has been received by each and every private passenger transport provider for buses, ferries and trains. And given the statutory requirements under the Local Government Auckland Council Amendment Act 2010, Section 40, for Auckland Transport to use its revenue efficiently and effectively and in a manner that seeks value for money, and ensure that its revenue and expenditure are accounted for in a transparent way, please provide copies of all any cost-benefit analyses produced by Auckland Transport, consultant or contractor, or all any other party or parties which prove that public subsidy of private passenger transport services is more cost-effective than in-house public service provision. Please provide copies of all any requests received by Auckland Transport from the Auckland Council governing body or any committee of Auckland Council for any cost-benefit analyses produced by Auckland Transport to ensure that the public subsidy of private passenger transport services is more cost-effective than in-house public service provision. Please provide copies of all any requests by Auckland Transport from the Board of Auckland Transport for any cost-benefit analyses. Please provide the information organisational flowchart which shows whom exactly from Auckland Transport is responsible for awarding contracts for private passenger transport services. Please provide the information which clearly explains the tendering process for Auckland Transport contracts for private passenger transport services. Please provide the information which shows the corruption risk processes and procedures in place in order to minimise potential conflicts of interest in the awarding of contracts.
You just move towards winding up because I've got some questions.
And I also want to know who externally, Office of the Auditor General, have they asked for any cost-benefit analyses? That's the point, councillors. Where's the money going? The public of Auckland, you are asking for a transport levy that is going to provide hundreds of millions of dollars for transport, but you're not looking now at where the money is being spent and is it being spent in a cost-effective way. You have not done your jobs, you have not done due diligence. Why is it my job to ask these questions? You can't have, because that information would have been available for me and Auckland Transport would have just handed it over. How can you proceed on this vote without having this information? And why did you never put to the public the alternative of public provision of transport, bring it back in-house? Thank you.
Thank you. Penny, I've got a question of you. So the information you're requiring and the AT are looking to just extend outside their 20 days, which I acknowledge, and normally we deliver within that time frame. Of course, the information has been provided at no cost, but as you go through that very long list of requests, you're asking for a lot of information.
Why didn't you, Mayor?
Reams and reams of it.
Why didn't you ask me?
All I'm asking you for is, would you, regard as being, given what you're asking for, would you think that it's not unreasonable for AT, who are clearly trying to provide you with all that information, because we have obviously similar headline information, wouldn't you think it's reasonable a few extra days to try and get all of that information to you?
I'm not knocking the extra days, Mayor. What I am knocking is that you are having a vote today on a transport levy, and you haven't looked at this information, which I believe is pivotal to this question of privately owned passenger transport in Auckland. You are not making a decision which is evidence-based, and you are not operating in a financially prudent way, and you are treating Auckland citizens and ratepayers, in my considered opinion, as a cross between a giant cash cow and an ATM machine.